candidate, sir, is it fair? The one aspirant is able to be plugged together. And there are so many.
Chaos in Machakos ODM nominations, but winner declared without any vote tallying.
Kwa kauli moja, mambo ya kitabu, mpaka baba apige simu. Apige simu.
Was ODM really prepared? Busia nominations marred by hitches. Bungoma Primaries tallying run into the night as ODM members choose their candidates.
There is an abuse of the criminal justice system so that what the respondents have undertaken is not to punish a crime.
And embattled Mombasa Governor Joho in court to stop probe over his academic papers. Welcome to the program. Good to see you. Our sign language interpreter at the bottom end of your screen is William Silla. William, thank you so much. Let's focus on the ODM primaries after a day of delays, anxiety and tension. The Busia County ODM Elections Board Secretary Innocent Oluku says they have received vote results from 99% of the polling centers, but they're waiting for hard copy results before they can make the final announcement on just who has won where. Let's now bring in our senior political affairs reporter, Duncan Haemba, who is in Busia. He's been keeping an eye on what's been happening there for us since very early in the morning. Haemba, good evening. Good to see you. It has been a very long day for you. What are you hearing on the ground? I know the numbers are now trickling in. We have results from 11 out of 105 polling stations.
Yes, Linda, as you've said, results are trickling in, not fast and furious as expected or as what we are used to whenever it's a by-election or an election, when they are being transmitted or relayed through the electronic system. Therefore, we are doing it manually. We will have to wait. And as you've said, the ODM election official in Busia County could have said 99 they've received on paper, but yet to get them officially, we doubt, because from the reports we are getting across in most polling stations is when they're about to conclude. However, out of the 105 polling stations, only 11 so far is what we've been able to do, a quick compilation, although most that we've been able to gather what we can say from areas perceived to be strongholds where Paul Otoma has enjoyed some massive support, looking at the results that we have so far, because from the 11 polling stations so far, Paul Otoma has 5,065 votes against the governor, Ojamong, who has 1,280. So that is what we are dealing with right now, but we'll be keeping tabs, or we'll be monitoring as those particularly officials actually come here.
All right, Haemba, this was definitely a battle between Governor Sospeter Ojamong and Funyula Member of Parliament Paul Otoma. As the results are trickling in, what are you hearing from some of the supporters?
Mixed reaction, and as you said, it was a battle, it is a battle, and perhaps it will continue to be a battle. Remember the events that we woke up to in the morning? Paul Otoma, a furious one, who as early as 6, he was at Bumala police station to lodge a complaint following a purported publication of one of the dailies that he's ditched ODM for Jubilee. Of course, it was propaganda at play. He explained bitterly and said that the matter will not end there, irrespective of what the outcome will be. When we posed the same question to the governor said, as far as he's concerned, he is the sole ODM aspirant here in Busia County. The rest belong to other parties. Claimed that they are being bankrolled by Jubilee, but ODM would later clarify and say Paul Otoma is a paid-up life member, founder party member of ODM, and that is the reason why he is participating in this particular instance. When we asked the governor, depending on how the cookie crumbles, if they will be extending an olive branch to one another, he said, in the event that he loses, then there will be plan B, but definitely him working or joining forces with the Otoma, it's a no, no, no. So Linda, that paints a picture on what we are dealing with in as far as this whole nomination exercise is concerned. And therefore, it will be interesting just to see who will be standing where when the chips finally fall. Remember that they've been having bad blood in ODM. At some point, Otoma had resigned from his position as ODM vice chair. He was almost on his way out when they teamed up with the likes of Ababu Namwamba before he said that he reconsidered his decision, then went back to the party. Those were just some of the telltale signs that perhaps all was not well as far as the two leaders are concerned. Of course, one knew who was after his political seat, and one knew that he needed to unseat who, and that shows how the whole thing is panning out. When you talk to residents here, some are saying they will make that decision, they want change. Some are saying they want the status quo. Some are saying even if there is an outcome today, still August 8th, there will be another major decision that will be made by all registered voters in the county. So the stakes are high, Linda.
Listen, talking about that publication that you've just mentioned that was doing rounds in the area, we do know that it was sort of linked to a Nation Media Group, and they gave a they gave a statement actually, and they said they disassociate themselves from such leaflets and condemn in the strongest terms possible the use of any of their brands for political purposes. A clarification there from Nation Media Group saying the top page of what was purported to be Daily Nation that was doing rounds in Busia did not originate from them. But then it's interesting, Haimba, when you say that you spoke to the aspirants, and he said that he seems to be having, if at all the results come in and he loses, then he will have a plan B. Did you get to ask what that plan B would be?
Yes, we asked him because we asked the governor. We told him that his opponent has gone to the media, has actually reported to the police. Nation Media Group has come out and said they will be investigating just how a template or something, a replica to their product, came out with what they called misleading information to the public. But when we asked the governor whether he is behind it, because those were the allegations by his opponent, Dr. Paul Otoma, the governor was very categorical and said that he cannot confirm or deny, but what he knows that it's him as an ODM member against outsiders, because he's completely refused to agree, or rather content with the fact that both of them are in ODM. And he says that he has all the evidence that he is battling external forces. So we are not so sure how the whole matter will proceed, because to many it appears that it took many by surprise, including the ODM party itself. So we are yet to see what exactly will be transpiring. Remember that on Monday, the two leaders were actually summoned by the disciplinary committee. And when you look at the resolutions that the committee came up with, they were told that they have to toe the line, their party line, and ensure that they subside those animosities that are threatening to polarize this particular party and in this particular part of the country. So the stakes are high. We'll just see. It will be interesting, particularly if it will be a neck-to-neck race, in that all the two leaders, both the two leaders will come here for the final tally. So you can imagine if the two leaders meet eye to eye, what will happen given what they woke up to, that particular propaganda that purported one of them has ditched the party overnight and joined Jubilee.
Trust me, but that would be very interesting to see the two leaders meeting up at one point. And I remember you're speaking to the incumbent, Ojemong, in the morning, and he made such serious allegations. So it would be interesting as well just to see the sort of atmosphere that will be there when the two leaders finally meet up. Duncan Haimba speaking to us from Busia, of course, keeping an eye on the numbers as we speak right now. These are the results that we have from Busia County. So the incumbent Ojemong has 1,280 and Otoma has 5,065. Remember, these are just results from 11 out of 105 polling stations. We are keeping an eye on what's happening on the ground for you. Remember, Duncan Haimba will keep an eye on those numbers, and as soon as we have the final number, trust me, you will get it on KTN. Let's move on now. In the ODM primary in Machakos constituency of Mavoko at the Mudhwani ward ended in total disarray without any vote tallying being done. But the returning officer there has declared Bob Nyambaka as the winner despite protests from his rival Richard Masese, who claimed the ballot boxes had been stuffed in favor of Bob. Let's now take a look at some of the pictures from Machakos ODM primaries. All right, so we're still waiting for that footage from Machakos. That happened later in the evening when the numbers were being released in the evening. And of course, one of the aspirants started raising concerns, saying it was not a free and fair election. He gave allegations of ballot stuffing, and at some point there were complete chaos, and Murimi Mwangi was on the ground for us. So just before we run the clips for you to see what exactly happened in Machakos, allow me to bring in my colleague, Murimi Mwangi, who was on the ground. Murimi, it was a beautiful day for you in Machakos until later on in the afternoon. So what exactly happened?
Well, that's true, Linda. There was consensus among the four aspirants or candidates that were contesting for the ODM ticket in the Mudhwani ward, but at just 30 minutes into the counting of these votes, there was a complaint from one of the candidates, Masese, who was complaining that the ballot papers that were counted in favor of his competitor, Bob Nyambaka, seemed not to have been folded, and that was consistent. And he said that that ought to be investigated, and even if that meant opening up the ballot boxes to confirm if indeed that was true, he was willing to take that road. But the returning officer stopped the exercise for close to some 30 minutes as he waited for reinforcement of more police officers to beef up the security in that particular tallying center, because the crowd was becoming too much and the tensions were rising. But when that resumed the exercise of counting the votes, just 30 minutes into that exercise, Masese produced what he said was the evidence right from inside the ballot box. He produced a batch of ballot papers which he said had been put there, and those were not cast by voters. And that, of course, occasioned the chaos that were witnessed, leading to the firing of the shots and the throwing of stones by the supporters of the two candidates. Linda.
Murimi, that would be a good point to bring in that clip of what happened in Machakos. Could we take a look, please?
I do not understand the reason as to why you decided to hide the box. If you bring in 3 people to be an observer from every agent and they raise an issue, those people are not madmen and they don't need policemen to be taken out, right? If there is an issue that has been raised, you listen to them, you call the aspirants, we look at those papers, and we ascertain the reality. There's nothing to hide here. The evidence is here. Just open the box. We look at those votes. Votes are ours. We are the people who make a decision. So, can we look at those votes? Simple and clear. If they belong to one individual and they are not folded, I mean, that is like black and white. You know?
I wish to say that the game has not been all that fair to the all parties. And now, since we agreed that we proceed, can we kindly look for a solution so that we can move ahead? If the returning officer, you feel that we are not going to end anywhere, because what I hate is seeing chaos, people fighting for no reason. We can either, with the three aspirants, we can postpone the issue. Yeah, we can postpone the issue so that we can look for another day, we can hold the elections. Because from the morning, brother, the exercise has been not fair.
There is some votes that were there inside the ballot box that he said they are strange, and yet we can also witness the same votes in his ballot box which are very straight also. So that is not an issue to complain about, because the ballot box they are very transparent. The agent was there, he witnessed, and even before opening, I asked the agent if there is any other issue maybe they are raising. Unfortunately, they said it's okay. I had a go ahead, and now maybe because he is creating a lot of tension, he started to drink kills.
Great, so that is what happened in the afternoon in Machakos. Murimi Mwangi, it's actually interesting that that happened and still a winner was declared.
Well, Orange House will have some explaining to do, Linda, particularly on the declaration of a candidate, despite there having not been a final tally in that particular tallying center. Secondly, the two candidates will have to explain the origin of that batch of votes that was found inside that ballot box as at the time of the tallying exercise, given that that was from the evidence presented by Masese from inside that particular ballot box, not votes cast by voters that participated in that particular exercise. And we expect more explanations from the ODM's disciplinary committee, which we understand has summoned the two leaders to appear there, of course, to shed some more light on exactly what happened here. But of course, most importantly, a candidate was declared the winner in that particular poll without there being any final tally. Linda.
Let's see how that goes. Like you mentioned, ODM has a lot of explaining to do. Murimi Mwangi, who was keeping an eye on what was happening in the ODM primaries in Machakos for us. Murimi, always such a pleasure speaking to you. And it's interesting that you say that ODM will have a lot of explaining to do, because we do know that the judiciary and the political parties dispute tribunal have set a raft of mechanisms to deal with disputes that may arise from some of these primaries. That is also a story that we'll be focusing on for you this evening. So let's move on now. And the ODM primaries in Bungoma have not been without their fair share of conflict. Our reporter Chris Thairo has been following events there the whole day. Allow me to speak to him now on phone. Chris Thairo, good evening. Good to speak to you. What are you hearing on the ground? I'm hearing rumors, you can't confirm this, that John Makali is currently leading in the Kandui parliamentary seat?
Well, the correct way to put it, Linda, is that John Makali, who was facing Advocate Edwin Sifuna, is leading out of the 40 polling stations in Kandui constituency. Out of the 8, John Makali currently has 2,226 votes against Makali, who has against Sifuna, who has 300 votes. And of course, currently the polling, the returning officer is continuing giving us the provisional results. We'll continue receiving these provisional results until we reach the 40th polling station, which is the last polling station. And of course, that will be like in the next 3-4 hours. Of course, we'll be knowing who will represent ODM party ticket in Kandui. constituency come 8th of August. And of course, the process started way in the morning, but in some of the polling stations, there were challenges. Some of the polling stations had to wait until the afternoon to receive the materials, of course, and ballot boxes to continue with the primaries. But by 6, the whole process had already closed and tallying had already started. So we are at DEB Primary School in Bungoma County, where it will be the tallying center. Actually, it is the tallying center, and this is where the winners will be announced. Linda?
I know that results are already trickling in Bungoma. What are some of the reactions that you're getting from the different supporters for the different aspirants?
Of course, Edwin Sifuna has already started issuing claims stating that his opponent, John Makali, might have rigged the whole process. Since going by what the returning officer is announcing is that John Makali is way ahead of Edwin Sifuna. And of course, we'll still wait and see whether the reaction that his supporters will have after the official announcement by the returning officer. But let's hope that it will be peaceful, and they can also confirm that security here is tight. No vehicles have been allowed to enter. Police officers have been deployed here in a good number so that they can ensure that this process will be peaceful. In the morning hours, we saw that there were pockets of violence between supporters of these two aspirants. And of course, from that, police officers are not leaving anything to chance, ensuring that this process will, of course, end peacefully after even announcing who will actually represent ODM party in Kandui constituency. Linda.
Chris Iru from Bungoma, thank you for keeping an eye on the ODM primaries there for us. The same as Busia, when the final tally comes in, of course, you'll see it here and you'll hear about it here on KTN News. Chris Iru, always a pleasure speaking to you. Speaking of violence and chaos in ODM, the ODM Disciplinary Committee released a shocking decision slapping ODM-nominated Senator Elizabeth Ongoro with a fine of 1 million shillings, while Migori Governor has been slapped with a fine of 2 million shillings. Senior reporter Patrick Amimo has been on the story today. Amimo is joining us from our City Center studio. Amimo, explain to our viewers where the disciplinary committee is coming from with this.
Thank you, Linda. This particular action by the disciplinary committee arises from events that happened in Migori last week, where we saw a rally that had been organized by the ODM deputy party leader Ali Joho when he wanted to open an ODM office in Migori, and we saw at least violence erupt. It was on the 3rd where at least one person, the bodyguard of Joho, was shot at and injured, and several people also, including journalists, were injured in Migori. That's why the ODM's disciplinary committee decided to have these people to come on board and at least explain to it, and that was this week. So with regard to Migori, the party disciplinary committee found the governor guilty. That's why they've slapped a fine of 2 million shillings to him. The governor says that he was remorseful for the action that happened, the violence that happened in Migori town during that last week, and he says he's remorseful. And he also tried to explain to the committee that the reason why maybe he took the action that he's taking is that he has been belittled by some officials of ODM who regard him as a Jubilee mole. So he's looking, at least he says that that particular action, the way some ODM officials refer to him as a Jubilee mole, is not right. That's why he feels that he has to, maybe this rally, when it was brought there without his knowledge, I thought that it's part of the campaign to at least to alienate him from the ODM party. But again, the committee has said that it's very, very critical that the ODM party leadership makes a peace committee in this particular area and also desists from visiting any counties during this period where the ODM is carrying out its primaries. The party leadership and its luminaries have been barred from visiting any county until the party primaries are over, because their visit might make other contestants feel that probably they are favoring certain candidates. The other, with regard to Ruaraka constituency, we saw that Elizabeth Ongoro last week, she had a supporter storm ODM head office, Orange House, and Ongoro did say that She did not storm the office, as it were. She claims that she was simply delivering a letter to Orange House and also to inquire on reports whether her name was on the party list that had been submitted to IEBC, because prior to that, there had been media reports that she had defected and that TJ Kajwang had been given a direct ticket. The committee also found that in Ruaraka constituency, there is a very supremacy battle between supporters of Elizabeth Ongoro and the incumbent MP TJ Kajwang. Yet these two members of parliament are unable to rein in their supporters. So they were asked that they rein in their supporters and ensure there is discipline. But for Ongoro, then she's been told she should not contest in Ruaraka, but seek an alternative party. And maybe prior to that, we had at least the deputy party leader Weekly for Paranya, together with the chairperson, did make a recommendation. And let's have a look at what they had to say over this.
On Mheshimiwa Ongoro's issue, the committee felt that she went overboard. While there was violence in Ruaraka, but she went overboard to come here and storm the Orange House, and in the process, the executive director was injured. And from the findings of the disciplinary committee, we established that there is strong-rooted rivalry between the two. While the two are committed members of the party, it was very difficult to move the sitting member of parliament. So we thought it is much easier to request or to direct the Mheshimiwa Ongoro to move to another constituency. We have not identified a constituency for her. We can't do that. But we have just directed that she should look for another constituency. And also, election is not like death and life. She can even defy it and do something else for the party and wait for 2022.
Mrs. Elizabeth Ongoro, again, has been reprimanded with respect to the violence in Ruaraka. Then we have violence that was perpetrated on the headquarters, the ODM headquarters, these grounds where we stand, by a group of people that included Ms. Elizabeth Ongoro and her supporters. Ms. Elizabeth Ongoro bore responsibility for that. And for that particular violence, Ms. Elizabeth Ongoro has been fined 1 million shillings. The committee also directed that Ms. Ongoro does do a public apology to the party and a directed apology to the party leader. There was a case where people were fighting and some youth were beating some of the party leaders, or stoned them anyway. And with that violence, the committee did have a finding that Governor Obado was actually bore responsibility for it. And specifically for that violence, the committee has fined Governor Obado a sum of 2 million shillings. But as I've just said, there are bigger issues and more complex matters in Migori. And what we see as violence is just a tip of the iceberg. The committee realized that there has to be a final settlement to this matter. And they've found out that there's no way of doing that unless the party leadership, the top party leadership, does take immediate steps to establish a team of elders or peace team of elders in Migori to start work immediately, and especially before the nominations are commenced there.
So that was day one of ODM primaries in Busia, Bungoma, and Machakos. And we've covered it for you in a way only we can. Thank you for staying with KTN Prime. Let's take a breather. We'll be back.